Hello, how are you? Well, today I'm going to give you a brief explanation about relative clauses in English. Relative clauses as well as conditional clauses are quite easy. We don't have many problems in order to understand them. Relative clauses consist of joining two different clauses with a relative pronoun. Relative clauses. The main or most important relative pronouns in English are who, which, and that, who, which, whom also, and that. Okay, these are the most important relative pronouns. For example, if we have this sentence, here we have two sentences. He is a boy, he is 16 years. We can join these two sentences with a relative pronoun. And we can say, he is a boy who is 16 years. We use the relative pronoun who in order to refer to he, the boy. Who is a relative pronoun that is used to refer to people. And which is a relative pronoun which refers to things. For example, this is a table. The table is brown. If we join these two sentences, we say this is a table which is brown. Okay? We use the relative pronoun which to refer to the table. And the table is a thing. This who is used to refer to people and which is used to refer to things. Both can be replaced by that. That can be used in all cases. This is the general explication. Whom is used to refer to people, but whom is not so commonly used. Many years ago, whom was used because it's more formal, but nowadays who is replaced to whom in almost all cases. Okay, here we have a brief explanation about how to join two sentences with a relative pronoun. Now I'm going to explain in detail defining and non-defining relative sentence. Now I'm going to explain defining relative clauses. Relative clauses. In defining relative clauses, the information is completely necessary. It cannot be omitted. For example, the boy who lives next door is my brother. Here we have the relative who refers to the boy, it's a person, and this information, all this information, the relative clause, cannot be omitted. If we say the boy is my brother, who? Who lives next door? That boy, that lives next door. In this case, this information is completely necessary. The relative pronoun cannot be omitted, but there exist other cases when the relative pronoun can be omitted. For example, Aquí. In this sentence, here we can put who or whom, it should be both. In these cases, this relative pronoun can be omitted. We can say this, the boy you saw yesterday is my brother. It can be omitted because the relative pronoun can be omitted when it is an object, not the subject of the sentence. It's an object, but here we have the subject. Most clear, when the relative pronoun is followed by a subject, it can be omitted. When the relative pronoun is followed by a verb, it cannot be omitted. In this case, this relative pronoun is a subject, and in this case, this relative pronoun is an object. Subject and object in the main clause, in the subordinate clause. It can be, we can say, the boy you saw yesterday is my brother. It should be completely possible. But we cannot say the boy lives next door is my brother. No, the boy is who lives, because who is the subject of the sentence lives next door. These are defining relative clauses because the information of the relative clause is completely necessary. The same happens with which, when we refer to a thing. For example, the car which I bought is wonderful, for example. Here, which is the relative pronoun, refers to a thing. This relative pronoun can be omitted because here we have a subject. Here we have the subject of the relative sentence, and then the relative pronoun can be omitted. We can say the car which I bought is wonderful, or the car I bought is wonderful. Both sentences are possible. These are called defining. Defining means that the information is completely necessary for understanding the whole sentence. Okay? Now we are going to go with non-defining relative clauses. These non-defining relative clauses are usually placed between commas. Okay? In this case, the information of the relative clause is not necessary to understand the sentence. For example, Mary here we have a relative clause, but this relative clause can be omitted because we can say Mary lives in London. Her age is not necessary. Mary, who is 16 years, this information is not necessary. Or, for example, Tom's car, for example. Okay. Tom's car, which is green, this is an information about the car of Tom. A relative pronoun refers to a car, is very expensive. In this case, we can say this, Tom's car is very expensive, and the sentence has a complete meaning. This information is added, but it is not necessary. These are called non-defining relative clauses. And in these non-defining relative clauses, the relative pronoun that is never used. We cannot say that is 16 years old or that is green. In the other type of sentence, we can replace who or which by that. But in this sentence, who or which cannot be replaced by that. And the whole sentence, the whole relative sentence, can be omitted because it's not necessary. Okay? Well, finally, we are going to explain relative clauses with prepositions. When we have a preposition in a relative clause, the preposition is usually placed at the end of the relative clause. For example, the boy Which one is the relative clause? This one. The boy who you are talking to is Tom. In this case, the preposition is usually placed at the end of the relative clause. There exists another possibility. We can say to whom you are talking. In this case, the preposition is next to the relative pronoun. But most common is this one, in which the preposition is placed at the end of the relative clause. In this case, the relative can also be omitted. The boy, we can say here, the boy you are talking to, without the relative pronouns. The relative pronoun can be omitted because it's not the subject of this sentence. The subject is you, and the preposition is placed. But when the preposition is not placed at the end of the relative sentence, the pronoun is necessary. It cannot be omitted. It is a much more formal way of speaking, and it is much more informal. When we normally speak, relative pronouns are omitted, and prepositions are placed at the end of the sentence. And the last thing I'm going to explain to you are other relative connectors that are used in relative clauses. For example, where. Here, this is the city where I was born. In this case, we don't have who, which, we use another relative pronoun, which is where. It means donde. This is the city, esta es la ciudad donde nací, where I was born. In this case, the relative sentence cannot be omitted because it gives us an information that is completely necessary. Where is commonly used. Another one, when. It was the date, for example, when, the same, we can say the same, I was born. In this case, we have the relative pronoun when. It refers to the date. Cuando. It was the date when I was born. Fue la fecha en la que nací. When I was born. Where, donde, when, cuando. And finally, whose. Whose is very common. In Spanish as well. Whose means in Spanish cuyo. For example, whose members. This is the city. For example, this one, cuyos. It means cuyos miembros. This is the city whose members are here. Whose refers to the next word, members. And it means cuyo coche, whose car is here, or whose whatever you want. These are other elements that are used to create relative sentences with different connectors instead of who, which, or what. It's very common use where, when, or whose. Okay? Well, here I'm going to offer you this song in order to review relative sentence. All the Little Lights Passenger. It's a lovely song, and there you can find many relative pronouns, and in many cases they are omitted. You should be able to recognize the sentence where these relative pronouns are omitted and imagine which relative pronoun should be placed in any case. I hope you enjoyed the song, and I hope you enjoyed the classroom. Bye-bye.